So yesterday I've given the list of topics. I think except her, everyone knows me. Uh, but anyhow, yesterday I've given the list of topics for the current affairs. So today I'm trying to possible. I try to complete 6 topics as much as possible. But if the time don't permits, then we can shift it to the next class. But see, whenever you're looking into any current affairs, just don't try to looking into a prelims perspective. So alone prelims perspective doesn't help, and even alone mains perspective also doesn't help, because while you are preparing for mains, generally you miss some of the facts, but those facts might be important and they may ask as a statement in the prelims. So that is the reason why you need to understand any concept comprehensively, both in terms of fact aspect and both in terms of analytical aspect. So the first topic that I have chosen is caste census. So the first one is caste census. See, the moment if you see caste census, what are these castes and why you need a census? And don't we have a census today? And if we have a census today, then what is this caste census? Are we not calculating the caste today? So these are the facts that you must keep it in mind before you start. See, when I say census, so for how many years census will be calculated? Once in a decade. Once in a decade. And actually this exercise has started in 1872. This exercise has started in 1872. But the exercise which was conducted in 1872 was not a pan-India. It's not a whole India-based exercise, but so the first caste census was done in the 1872. 1872. The first one is in 1872. But this 1872 was not a pan-India basis, but it was temporal to some extent, and it was spatial to some extent, limited to a very few parts of India. But the whole India exercise was done in the year 1881. 1881. This was the first time where census was calculated in India, in the modern India. We don't know whether Ashokan or Guptan has calculated it or not, but it's about modern India. Britishers has done that. And after independence, we have enacted a legislation. That legislation is Census Act 1948. Census Act 1948. This was a legislation we have enacted in independent India. Census Act. And according to the Census Act, we will calculate the census. And the exercise was started first in 1951, and after that 61, 71, 81, 91, 2001, 2011. These many exercises we have done. Now, what are the data generally we calculate in this census? Generally. So generally we say economic status, family members, their relation, religion. These are the things generally we calculate. But what happened is in the year 2011, Government of India has done a different exercise along with this census. So what was that exercise? That exercise we call it as socio-economic caste census. That exercise what we have done in the year 2011 is socio-economic caste census. But under the Census Act, see, every act has its own rules. I think you are aware. The act cannot be implemented as it is. Act only, it's a framework. This framework you can't implement. If you just go through a legislation, it's a broader framework. You cannot implement it. But once it is passed by both the houses of parliament, it will go to the executive, and the executive will prepare the rules and regulations according to this act. Now, under the Census Act, we will calculate the general information for everybody. But when it comes to the SCs and STs, we also calculate the caste. We also take the caste into consideration. That means if they are saying like they are SCs, then they have an option to tell their caste or subcaste. If you don't want to reveal that caste data, it's fine. But there is an option that this caste is taken into consideration for the people belonging to SCs and STs. That means even today, Government of India taking caste into consideration, but for the SCs and STs only. But for the SCs and STs only. But what about others? There is no column at all. If you are general or if you are OBC, then you no need to, there is no column at all in that census, whatever the table. So we are calculating the caste in India under 1948, but only for the SCs and STs. Now in the year 2011, we have done a separate census, that is socio-economic caste census. So this is economic and caste. Both we have taken into consideration. So what is your economic status? What is your personal income? What is your family income? Do you own any two-wheeler? Do you own air conditioner? Like we have taken the data. And apart from that, we have taken the caste data also. Now I am asking a question. When your act itself is only provided for the consideration of the caste of SCs and STs, how come Government of India done in the year 2011 to take the caste into consideration for everybody in this country? You cannot take any decision without a legislation. Don't think that Prime Minister can do anything or the officers can do anything. They can't do anything until and unless it is provided under a particular legislation. Whatever the decision you take, whatever the decision, Pradhana Mantri Narendra Modi has demonetized the currency. Under what regulations he has done that? We say like, okay, Prime Minister has not consulted anybody, he has taken a decision in a overnight. No. Under the Reserve Bank of India's Act, it provides that whenever if the Government of India wants, they can take back that notes. That is permitted under a legislation. If it is not permitted under legislation, then definitely it's a violation of the law. But as the demands are rising, I will come to the demands, why actually you should have a caste census. But as the demands are rising, in the year 2010, both the houses of parliament have passed a special resolution to do this SCCC. We haven't amended the Census Act to add the economic and caste census of OBCs. Had we amended Census Act 1948, we don't get the question of caste census now. It is not permitted under the legislation. But we have passed a separate resolution and under we have taken this economic and caste data. Anyhow, 2011 we have started. It's a completely digital exercise. Completely the first digital exercise in India is 2011. Now we have calculated the data and we have released the data in the year 2015. We have released this data in the year 2015. And while we are releasing this data in the year 2015, by the time the government changed, Modi government came. We have released only economic data, but we haven't released this caste data. We have only released the economic data, but we haven't released this caste data. Why we haven't released this caste data? That's the question. Why we haven't released this caste data? Why we haven't released this caste data? Because according to 2011 census, according to 2011 socio-economic caste census, more than 46 lakhs castes are there in India. More than 46 lakh castes are there in India. How come it is possible? How come it is possible? More than 46 lakhs. And when we have done this exercise, we have done in the year 1931. The first caste census we have done in 1931. And after that, there is no caste census because our legislation don't permit for that. We are only taking SCs and STs caste data. When we have calculated in the year 1931 under the British rule, the total amount of caste at this point of time were 4,147. 4,147. These were the total caste in India in 1931. But when it comes to 2011, it has become more than 46 lakhs. More than 46 lakhs. What were the reason to this 46 lakh? The government is saying calculation of the caste is so cumbersome because every person under a major caste, they are having some subcaste. Again, in the subcaste, they are having some different gotras. So people are often referring to these different identities rather identifying themselves with a particular caste. Under the caste, subcaste. Under the subcaste, you have gotras. Under the subcaste, you have the gotras. Again, suppose take a caste. Take a caste. Elava. I think it's from Kerala. Elava. Okay. EG, EZ. So this is a caste name. This is a caste name. I told you it is a digital exercise. Suppose if I mention my caste as, it has become another caste because H is missing. It has become another caste because A is missing. It's a digital exercise. And it is not something like, okay, choosing options from the existing caste. And even if you give that list of castes, suddenly some person say my caste is not there in this. I am not Elava. I am something a different sub Elava. So that exercise becomes futile. That is the reason why they haven't given that you have to choose your caste. And because of this, it has become more than 46 lakhs. The government in 2015 said this data, caste data of 2011, having lot of errors, so we don't want to release it. We don't want to release it. Now what happened is, the state of Maharashtra went to the Supreme Court. The state of Maharashtra went to the Supreme Court. Went to the Supreme Court. What is their demand in the Supreme Court? First of all, to release the caste data of 2011. Second one is take caste into consideration for every citizen of India while you are going for 2021 census. There are two demands. First one is release the caste data of 2011, and second one is consider the caste for every citizen in this country while we are going for 2021 census. 2021 census. Now I have given the data of caste census, but I want to give a data of economic census also. The caste census, first it was done in 1931, later it was in 2011. That means the caste census which we have done in the year 2011 was second caste census. In independent India, it was the first caste census. When I say caste for every citizen. SC, ST castes are anyway calculated, anyway taken into consideration for once in 10 years. When it comes to the economic data, the first economic data that census was conducted in 1992, second one is in 1997, third one is in 2002, and the fourth one is in 2011. So the 2011 SCCC was the fourth economic survey, fourth economic census survey. It was the second caste census survey. Because you can use all this information while you are writing your essay or while you are writing your answers. And sometimes you don't know how come prelims questions come. If you understand this data, somewhere you can answer and you will have some idea over that statement. In the 1992, it was first time. That means what? That means what? They will only calculate your economic status. How many people are poor? How many people are having income of less than 20,000 per annum? How many people are having an income of more than 10 lakh? Likewise, they will consider. This is the first time. These are not caste census. This was not economic census. This is purely caste. These are purely economic. But we combined economic and caste, and along with data census, we have done this SCCC. SCCC is different to that of the 2011 census. They are different. Regular exercise. Okay. Now, just a fact, who will calculate this census? I think I'm expecting you will aware. Who will do this census exercise in India? Which ministry will do? No. Which ministry do this census? Ministry of Home Affairs will do. Okay. Registrar General and Census Commissioner. Registrar General and Census Commissioner is under the Ministry of Home Affairs. He will do. And under the aegis of that ministry, in rural area, Ministry of Rural Development will do in rural area. Ministry of Urban Housing and Poverty Alleviation will done in urban area, because Home Ministry don't have its machinery. But under the Home Ministry, Registrar General, in rural area and urban area, these two different ministries will do. Now, where is this 2011 caste data now? This has given to Ministry of Social Justice. Now it is with the Ministry of Social Justice. But the nodal agency is Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, once you are aware with these facts, now I am entering into the crux of the issue. See, why you need to have a caste data in this country? Why you need to have a caste data in this country? Anyhow, SC's, ST's caste data is available, but we wanted to have the caste data of mostly OBCs. This is the main demand. Anyway, for general category, this may not be a big issue, but the major demand is coming from OBCs. Why this major demanding is coming from OBCs? The reason is we have already appointed 2 OBC commissions or 2 BC commissions in India. May I know the names of those commissions? First BC commission and second BC commission, backward classes. Kaka Kalelkar commission and Mandal commission. Kaka Kalelkar commission 1953 and BP Mandal commission in 1979. It was appointed in 1979, but the recommendations were implemented in 1990 when VP Singh, Vishwanath Pratap Singh was the Prime Minister. So when Kaka Kalelkar commission and BP Mandal commission was appointed, they have studied the socio-economic conditions of backward classes in India. And both the commissions have recommended for having a caste census in India. Both the commissions have recommended for caste census in India. Because if at all we want to study the socio-economic conditions of a particular community, you must have the data. Without having data, perhaps it's not possible to do any affordable action or to start any program. That is why both the commissions have recommended for doing this caste census. And you are aware, BP Mandal has recommended for 27% of the reservation in both public employment and educational institution. That was implemented by VP Singh. That has led to Mandal movement. Those are all known issues. I'm not getting into that. But these 2 commissions have recommended for caste census. Why you need to have a caste census? Because in India, Indian society is a caste-ridden society. We are a caste society. We wanted to get rid of that caste, but still we are a caste society. And in this caste society, we are hierarchical. We are hierarchical. And when we have written our constitution, under Article 15 and under Article 16, we have mentioned about a concept of reservation or a positive discrimination, or we can call it as affordable, or we can call it as positive affirmation. So under Article 15 and Article 16, we have mentioned about this affirmative action to some of the socially and educationally backward classes. That is what exactly the word we have used in the Constitution. Socially and educationally backward classes. Again, with the latest amendment, when we have given the reservation to the EWS quota, we have added economically also. But I am not taken into that here. Under Article 15 and under Article 16, specifically Article 15.4 and Article 15.5 and Article 16.4. So under this Article 15 and under Article 16, Article 15 is about very general. Article 16 is so specific about public employment. Article 15.5 is dealing with reservation in educational institutions. And Article 15 is very general. You have to frame a separate policies for the socially and educationally backward classes. Article 15 is for educational institutions. Article 16.4 is for employment opportunities. They haven't mentioned about SCs and STs. But the moment we see the socially and educationally backward classes, generally we think SCs and STs. SCs and STs. But it was in the year 1990, we have included OBCs into this list also. Now, what is the percentage of reservation that is allotted to OBCs? 27%. 27%. Now, the reservation is 27% to OBCs. See, under Constitution, SC reservation is given according to the quota. That means, what is their amount of population? That much amount of reservation is given when it comes to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. And there are some states where the tribal population is having 80%, 85%, northeastern states. There you can give the reservation to these STs to that extent. That means up to 80% you can give. And don't forget that there is a Supreme Court ruling that reservation should not cross 50%. But in an extraordinary case where the tribal population is exceeding that percent, then you can take an exception to that. You can give reservations up to 80%. But my overall point here is the reservation to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe are in proportion to their population. In proportion to their population. And when it comes to the SCs and STs, they are having the reservations both in Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. In Rajya Sabha, you don't have reservations. I think you are aware about this fact. But whereas when it comes to the OBCs, they don't have the reservations at the Lok Sabha level or state legislative assembly level. At the state level, they have the reservation, but that is up to the state. When we have framed the, when we have amended 73rd and 74th Constitution Amendment, SC/ST reservations are inbuilt in the Amendment Act itself. But when it comes to the OBCs, they are left it to the state government. Now, when it comes to the OBCs, what is the amount of reservation we are giving? 27%. And in Indira Sahani judgment, or Mandal judgment, they have clearly mentioned that reservations are not proportionate, but for adequate representation. That means if you are 80%, we don't give 80%. If you are 60%, we don't give 60%. It is not for the complete full proportionate representation. It is only to have an adequate representation. And based on that adequate representation formula, we have given 27% reservation to the OBCs. To the OBCs. Adequate in the sense, a minimum thing should present. Now the question is, what is the percentage of these OBCs in this country? The main question is that. What is the percentage of OBCs in this country? Is it 50? Is it 60? Is it 70? You are saying 52. When you have calculated this 52? The only official data we have of 1931, 1932. And after that, we don't have the data. Some of the state governments have calculated the census, but not in a full-fledged manner. They are having their own difficulties. But a rough estimates, we are saying like it's 50 or 60. But we don't know exact data. SCs and STs, okay, it is according to their population, but when it comes to the OBCs, it is not. Then what about this remaining 50% of reservations? Who are getting benefit of this 50%? STs and SCs and OBCs comes into 49.5% around that entire reservation, including your physically challenged persons and everything. Remaining 50 thing is left over. Who are enjoying these benefits of 50%? Who are? General candidates? Did it include OBCs? But on overall, if you see 100%, the OBCs percentage is how much, and the amount of benefit that they are enjoying is how much? Is it proportionate? At least is it adequate? If their population is 80% or 70%, if their representation is 20%, can you consider it as an adequate? No. Only OBC. Even anyone can do. I do agree that anyone can do. But the point is, how many are really utilizing that 50% is point? Everyone can compete. You and me, everyone can compete. Even SC, ST, physically challenged, everyone will compete. But once they are getting into that, who are they? Are they really everyone? But is it hijacked by again some sections? That's the point. And some of the data shows that for namesake, we are saying like 50% can be, everyone can compete to this 50%, but the people who are coming out of this funnel is only general candidate. Only general candidate. So now lot of regional parties, especially from the northern India, and now the demand is arising in southern India also. We need to have the caste census. They are not talking about all these things. They're only talking about caste census. We need to have the caste data. If you want to do a social justice in this country, the real definition to the social justice is only caste in India. And when you don't have the data, how can you bring the social justice to these people? This is the main question. How can you bring the social justice when you don't have the data? We need to have the data. But in the Maharashtra case, the government of India has clearly mentioned that this process is administratively difficult and is cumbersome. We cannot do that exercise. But still the pressure is building upon union government that you please go for this caste data. Caste data. Why this caste data is important? I'll tell you some of the points. This caste-based data will be helpful for affirmative action. Affirmative action. That means whether you want to bring any policy, whether you want to create any reservations, anything, for any affirmative act, for any affirmative action, this data is helpful, first of all. Second one, whenever we are extending this reservation to any particular caste, or whenever we want to give reservations In promotions, the first point Supreme Court is raising is quantifiable data. I think you might aware about Nagarajan case, Nagaraj case. Have you heard about this Nagaraj case? It is about what? In the year 1997, we have amended the constitution to create the reservations in promotions also, because it was struck down in Mandal judgment. In Indira Sahani judgment, when it was struck down, again we have amended the constitution to create the reservations in promotions. That was challenged in the Nagaraj case. And in the Nagaraj case, the Supreme Court said that I am not against all these things, but I am only saying that you must have a quantifiable data. Until and unless you have the quantifiable data, I don't allow all these reservations in promotions. And when some states are giving reservation to the Gujjars or Marathas or Kapus, the famous argument that the Supreme Court is bringing is you must have a quantifiable data. Do you have that data? So now we will get that quantifiable data so that we can support our argument. Nagaraj case is for only SCs and STs. Nagaraj case is for only SCs and STs. No, that quantifiable data is only for SCs and STs population, but the Supreme Court asked for how many SCs are in the administration, how many people are at the group 4 level, how many people are at the group 2 level. That data Supreme Court wants. How many are promoted, how many are not promoted, whether they are adequately represented in an administration or not. That's what Supreme Court asked. But this quantifiable data has become so famous, like for every caste we are asking. Next. Even identifying the poor, one of the thing we can identify the poor. Yeah. And even it will benefit in policy making. Even it benefit in policy making. Even it benefit in policy making. These are some of the advantages. Now, one more thing I'll tell. Under Article 340 of the Constitution of India, under Article 340 of the Constitution of India, President of India can appoint a commission to look into the socio-economic conditions or the backwardness of the OBCs. They can do. So that is why some people are suggesting, even if your Census Act is not allowing to do the caste census, the President of India can have an extraordinary power under Article 340, so they can appoint a commission to looking into the backwardness of other backward classes. And what about 338 and 339? Any idea to anybody? Article 338 and Article 339. It is for SCs and 339 is for scheduled tribes. And 340 is for OBCs. So you can appoint. Constitutionally, there is a provision. But the problem is not constitutional, but the problem is the post-calculation impacts. The post-census impact. There the problem lies. Now I'm coming to this problem. So why Government of India is not interested in doing this caste enumeration or caste census? See, the first point is they are saying administratively it's not feasible, cumbersome. But the point is, when we created reservations in the 1950, we have a different notion. The notion is not that Government of India will give the reservation to some people and they will earn some money from the government and they will become rich. It's not that philosophy with which we have started reservation. The philosophy of reservation is something different. Because government is not something like providing economic benefit to everyone. It's not a welfare program. It's not an economic upliftment program. Reservation is not an economic upliftment program. Reservation is a program which brings the social justice. So how will you bring that social justice? See, the government office or an educational institution, whenever there is a society, there must be a representation to everyone in that. Everyone in that. If it is an office, everyone should be there. If it is a school, everyone should be there. If it is a public representative place, it's an assembly or a parliament, everyone should be there. That is why we have given the reservation to them. But now, as the time passes, what is happening to this representation? When you take the economic condition, now how many government companies are there today? What is the role of government in present day context after liberalization? Everything is get privatized, except some of the administrative offices. What about educational institutions? Everything is get privatized. Moreover, the opportunity to employment and the opportunity to study now is more compared to the 1950s, 1960s. Now, this caste has become a tool for politics in this country. Now, the caste has become a tool for the politics in this country. There was a question in UPSC mains in society. Nowadays, so many organizations are coming in the name of the caste. Is it for the annihilation of the caste, or is it increasing the caste tendencies in the society? Critically analyze. Suddenly some caste is coming and they are starting some Elava group, Nair group. What they are saying? They are saying like we are backward, so we need to, we want to have a better share. But is this type of movements, are they leading to the casteless society? Are they increasing the caste consciousness? We need to understand this first. Unfortunately, the present day caste movements are leading to the more caste consciousness rather than casteless society. And how many castes are there? We don't know, it's 4,000 or 5,000. 32 census say 4,000. And in Maharashtra, when they have done this exercise, they have identified 1,46,000 castes. 2011 census says more than 46 lakh castes. So you need to understand this caste has become a political tool. If at all we want to give an affirmative action to these people, does really the reservation is an effective tool, or is it really an effective instrument in bringing that social justice? We need to think it seriously. Because why they are asking for all this data? Once the data is revealed, then they will ask for the fair share. I'm not against to that fair share. But there was already a Supreme Court judgment that reservation should be capped at 50%. Reservation should be capped at 50%, and there is a demand that this 50% should be increased. If they are asking for more and more amount of share, ultimately we will end up with 80 or 90 or 95. My problem is not even that. My problem is we have started implementing this policy of reservation to the SCs and STs, and we have extended it to the OBCs. Now we wanted to subcategorize it. Okay, we are doing this exercise. But is it really an efficient tool to bring the social justice? Or is it something else? If it is something else, we need to do that. But the existing system, we need to continue to some extent. But my point is, you don't try to create much more, you don't make this issue much more complex by doing this exercise. If tomorrow you will get some 10,000 as the caste, how will you bring the balance among the 10,000 castes? Every caste will come with a political organization. Every caste want that share in the overall 100%. So it has become very difficult. We need to have the data, but just have the data to get the affirmative action is perhaps practically not possible. It creates more problem than the solution. But the solution is something different, where you can give employment opportunities and educational opportunities to everyone, then you can solve the problem. When it comes to the politics, they want to do the politics with this data. Anyway, you are not supposed to write that politics angle here, but the point is, there are various commissions and even UPSC has said that these type of caste tendencies are leading to caste consciousness rather than bringing a casteless society. But there are other hand, some people are arguing, if you want to have a social justice without looking into the social realities, how can you bring the social justice? Without acknowledging the fact, how can you bring the social justice in this country? That is also a valid argument. But the moment if you want to acknowledge all the facts, it is creating more problems rather than solutions. So perhaps, we are not here to disturb the existing system, but we don't want to add much more complex things to the existing system. It creates a lot of problems. It may lead to some sort of sectarianism. We need to bind the society. And for binding the society, we need to bring some innovative solutions like improving the health access, improving the educational access, improving the employment opportunities. Like we need to promote. Because ultimate our goal is to bring an equal society or an egalitarian society or a casteless society. For that, some people are suggesting that once you do the caste census, once you understand the realities, once you divide the quota into every caste, then it will be solved. But there are other school of thought, they are arguing that these type of exercise will create problems. The solution lies in different thing. That's where providing education, employment opportunities, improving skill set. Perhaps this is the better solution to our problem. That is how you need to conclude. Because you will confuse how I need to conclude. There is a problem, two type of solutions. One type of solution creates more problems. One type of solution will try to give a better solution without creating the problem. So obviously you will choose the second solution. Is it clear? Is it clear? Do you have any doubts in this? And there was a reference to one commission, Justice Rohini Commission. Just I want to mention Justice Rohini Commission. What is this commission is about? Rohini Commission. Justice Rohini Commission is to subcategorize the OBCs. Subcategorize the OBCs. Subcategorize the OBCs. That means now OBCs are defined under a broad category of OBCs. Only few people in backward classes enjoying the benefits of this reservation. So it should not be, it has to be divided into some subsections, and the most backward section, some good sections and very good backward sections. So I'll divide this 27 among these things so that I can provide more reservation to this. There is an exercise is going on. But the only thing I am trying to say is, if you do this caste census, you may get hard realities of this country. I'm not opposing to that. But by unveiling the hard realities, you are creating more problems rather than solutions. That's what the point you need to understand. If the hard realities are to solve the problem, then it's fine. But they are creating more problems. They are not solving the problem. Okay. This is what about caste census. If you have any doubts, you can ask me from this. I think I have given with a lot of data. Huh? And one more thing, this caste data is helpful for removing inclusion and exclusion errors. This caste data is helpful for removing inclusion and exclusion error. See, tell me, what is this inclusion error and exclusion error? Inclusion error and exclusion error. Inclusion error means what? So while you are including somebody, there is an error. You are not including a beneficiary. That is an inclusion error. Exclusion error means while you are excluding somebody, unnecessarily you are excluding a beneficiary. So that is, just have an idea. Inclusion error and exclusion error. So if you are clear with the caste census, then I can move to the next one. But so generally you will get a question like this. Generally you will get a question like this. If at all we want to do a social justice, we need to have a quantifiable data, critically analyze on that. The question always looks like you need to go for the data, otherwise you can't do the justice. The questions will be asked in that way. Then don't be tempted and okay, definitely we must have the data. Otherwise we can't do anything in this country. You can't go like that. Because you are giving a solution and you must be aware about the consequences of that solution. Okay, be careful. So you got lot of prelims related questions. Kaka Kalelkar, Mandal Commission, first census, caste census, economic census, Article 340, 15.4, 16.4, Maharashtra government, Rohini Commission. First caste census was 1951. Okay, yeah. Now, I don't know how many topics I'll complete. But anyhow, if you understand whatever the 8 topics, that's fine.
Amrita IAS Academy.